What if the thing standing between you and reaching your goals for fat loss and fitness isn't your willpower? What if it's that nobody really taught you to pay attention while you eat? Because so many of us learn to eat by the clock, by what's on our plate, by the rules, not by what our body was actually telling us. Like we were taught to finish what's on our plate, eat at noon because your lunch break is 12 to 12:30. Say no to the bread basket because bread is bad, which is not. That's another video. I, these were rules that were arbitrary and accurate, and they didn't ask us to really notice anything. So, in the last couple of episodes, I've been talking about the importance of protein and eating high volume, nutrient dense foods. And that's about what you eat. If you haven't checked those out, I highly recommend them. I'll drop the links down in the description. Today is about how you eat. And I want to kind of flip something for you right out of the gate. Like one key skill that moves the needle on fat loss after 50 isn't restriction and it isn't eating like a bird, right? It is intention. And with all the things competing for our attention these days, phones, notifications, a screen at front of us at every meal, like our attention has become the most valuable thing we have. So it just makes sense that you want to point some of that back towards yourself in service of your health, fitness, wellness goals. There's a classic mindfulness exercise that I used to teach my college students. It's called the raisin exercise. In a nutshell, it's like you get one singular raisin. And instead of just popping it in your mouth and eating it and swallowing and it being gone like half a second, you slow all the way down. You actually take it, you look at it, you notice the texture, you smell it, you put it in your mouth, you let it sit there. And by the time you actually chew it, like my students, they were stunned. They were just noticing sensations that they had just steamrolled through like their whole entire life, right? And so, you know, if you've been steamrolling past some of these sensations, some of this experience when you've been eating, because you've just been on autopilot when you're eating, this is a great exercise to try. It doesn't have to take a long time, but I do know I have one recording from back in the day when we were doing this exercise with a class, and it's a 20-minute long experience to eat one raisin. Like that is a great kind of illustration of mindful eating, but not really realistic to do that for every bite. Uh, but that's the shift we're after today. It's not just about eating less, or eating more of certain things. It's about noticing more. And when you slow down enough to really notice, your body starts handing you information it's been trying to get you to notice the entire time. And it really doesn't take 20 minutes per bite. Thank goodness, I promise. So this is where we're headed today. Different kinds of hunger and why one of them is the only one that's about food. How to read your own fullness before you stop. So satisfaction becomes the stopping point instead of relying on restriction or just giving up altogether. And then we'll talk about why awareness beats willpower, plus one small thing you can actually put into practice at your very next meal. So let's dive in with why restriction backfires, especially after 50. Because we already know from the last couple of episodes that undereating speeds up muscle loss, it slows down your metabolism. Rigid food rules do something similar to your mindset. They set up a cycle a lot of us just know by heart, even if we don't really think about it. It's a set of strict rules to follow. And then there's a broken rule, right? And then there's guilt for not staying with it. And then shame for failing again. And then that's followed closely by, well, I blew it again. I might as well just go ahead and finish the whole bag. And then there's, getting back on track with the strict rules again the next week. And so I want to name that cycle without judgment because it doesn't mean that you're weak, like you didn't fail. That's just what restriction reliably produces. It reliably produces that in every single one of us. not just you, if this has happened to you before. It's not a character flaw. It's just the biology and the psychology that we have doing exactly what they're built to do. And that is when you tell your body no too many times in a row, it's going to push back against that. So the goal isn't necessarily more discipline. The goal is developing the skill of being intentionally aware, right? Intentionally aware. And in the moment awareness, it replaces those rules with real time feedback from your body. Feedback the rules were never able to give you in the first place. And so that brings us to different types of hunger. So I'm going to focus on the types that I see come up time and time again with my clients. And once you can tell them apart, once you start responding to the right signal, it makes things a lot easier. And so one of the things is physical hunger, right? That's the most obvious. That is the real bodily signal that we are low on fuel. And it builds gradually. So, when you're hungry, like any food sounds good. It's like, I just need fuel. Like, I've got to get something. It's not just one particular specific thing. And this is the hunger that eating solves. Your tank is on empty and you need some fuel in it to use for energy. And so that's the first type of hunger. That's the type we really want to be responding to and feeding ourselves well. And then there's emotional hunger, and it's different. Emotional hunger is a response to things like stress, boredom, the need for comfort. And, the stress hormone, cortisol, pushes us towards something soothing. Right? Uh, some of the hallmarks are it comes on fast. You may want a very specific thing. And one of the big tells is that eating doesn't fully satisfy. Sure, it provides some relief. It distracts you from being bored. It numbs stress and anxiety for a moment. It provides comfort for the time you're eating, but it's temporary and it doesn't solve the real issue because food was never the real problem. And then there's habitual hunger. This is the clock, the couch, the car, the snack drawer calling your name at 3 p.m. It's not hunger at all. It's in response to a cue, a routine, a conditioned response that your brain runs on autopilot. Like the same way you don't really have to think about like the act of brushing your teeth, right? It's just cue, you get it done. And so I'll give you my own example with this one. Years ago, when I was working full time, I would get in the car after a really long day at work, just bracing myself for a 45-minute commute. And that was on a good day. And 30 minutes in, I'd be just like sitting there stuck in bumper to bumper traffic. I'd find myself eating because one, I hadn't eaten in hours, like lunch was hours and hours ago. The day was just heavy. It had been a lot of stress, a lot of go, go, go. And then the car was just where eating happened because we spent a lot of time in the car, right? And it wasn't a willpower problem. It was really three different signals coming together to make a trifecta of like, feed me now. Like the physical, the emotional, the habitual, all showing up at the same time. And so once I could name all three of those signals instead of just lumping them into like one big, like, I need food, I could respond to each one of those like on its own terms. So I started keeping water with me, like drink some water first. Then have a healthy snack available in the car. So that took care of the physical hunger. Being able to take a few breaths for stress, kind of trying to downregulate that. And then just noticing of the habit of being in the car and not automatically feeding it. And so the next time a hunger or a craving signal shows up for you, get curious about it. Like, cravings and hunger are signals. They're not failings, right? It's a biological imperative. We must put fuel in our tank to keep running like we do. And once you know what they're signaling, you know what to do with them, and then you can act accordingly. Okay, so let's talk about the other half of awareness. Not just when to start eating, but how to know when to stop. So mindful eating means noticing hunger and fullness before and during the meal. Paying attention, slowing down enough to feel satisfaction before kind of fullness tips over into overfull. And it takes you about roughly 20 minutes for that digestion to get all the hormones and the fullness signals ramped up and getting those signals from your gut to your brain, right? If you eat a lot faster than that, you are going to sail right past satisfied before your brain ever gets the memo that you're full. A simple way to track this is using a hunger and fullness scale, like a 1 to 10 scale. So there's no counting, there's no app, nothing you have to do, just a quick gut check, like no pun intended. And you want to start eating when you feel that hunger at about a 3 to a 4, which is hungry but not starving. And you are aiming to stop at around 6 or 7, which is satisfied, not stuffed. And it's really just a quick mental check that takes a couple of seconds. And so here are some other practical cues that can help you slow down enough to actually catch that, like, I'm satisfied window. Put your fork down between bites. This is going to make you slow down. This is going to take a little bit longer, but take a bite, take the time to chew, put your fork down. Pause halfway through your meal. Like when your plate is half done, pause and ask you, like, how full am I now? How satisfied am I now? Use that 1 to 10 scale. And then prioritize your protein and eating your complex carbohydrates or vegetables first, because those are the things that help signal satiety and get you to that like level 6 or 7 satisfied sooner. And so also noting that, satisfaction isn't only about physical fullness, but we really need to lean into and acknowledge that it's also about pleasure. Humans seek pleasure. We are programmed to seek pleasure. And like food is one of the greatest pleasures there is, in my opinion. There are several, but yes, food is like top of the list. You want to have food that you want to taste and you enjoy. And this is kind of what helps you get satisfied and feel fuller on fewer calories than if you just inhale food on autopilot while scrolling on your phone and not really paying attention. Slowing down is how you get more enjoyment out of food and out of eating, not less. And it's really the opposite of restriction. And because this is this awareness, it works in your favor. And this is exactly what my Lean and Strong Jumpstart checklist goes into, plus other key things that matter for fat loss after 50, all laid out in one place. It's free. It's linked in the description down below, so you can go and grab that. And then there's one more signal worth mentioning kind of quickly because we tend to misread it, and that is thirst. Mild dehydration can masquerade as hunger. Plus, it quietly drags down your energy, and it also negatively impacts your workout performance. And so before you decide to have a snack, or before you decide to, go back for seconds or something like that, like check in. Like, when did I actually drink something? When did I drink water? And you want to keep that target really simple. Aim for around 8 cups a day, more on training days, more if you're outside a lot and you live in a hot environment. And you can keep that like the water cue visible, like a glass on the counter in the kitchen or on your desk. Like that's a positive cue to help you remember to stay hydrated. It sounds really simple. It sounds too simple in some ways. It doesn't take anything special, doesn't take any special equipment. It doesn't take any, you're not spending money on stuff, right? You're not going out and buying supplements or the next like piece of equipment. It's simple things, but does it actually work, right? And I want to be really clear that it does work. It is not soft, fluffy, woo-woo stuff. Studies on mindfulness and intuitive eating consistently show that eating in this way, noticing, being aware, being mindful, reduces overeating and binge episodes. And this is usually more reliable than following strict rules or portion rules or different food rules, right? Because these rules trigger that rebound where awareness doesn't. And as a fitness and fat loss coach for women over 50, the pattern I have seen over and over with women I work with that succeed with their goals is that they are not the ones who are the strictest or that do things perfectly. Like when I work with clients, like there's no perfect. So we take it off the table. But the clients that succeed, they're the most tuned in. And therefore, they are the most consistent. And they are able to stay the course long enough, do the work that makes their goal a reality. And this is where it all fits together. It all works together. So just quick recap, we covered 3 kinds of hunger to be aware of: physical, emotional, habitual. We talked about fullness, so it arrives before you're stuffed. And you notice that if you slow down, use that 1 to 10 scale, and then sometimes thirst disguises itself as hunger. None of this is about restriction. It is intentional attention. Intentional attention is being aware, tuning in instead of zoning out, ignoring, numbing, or distracting, right? Simple, but not necessarily easy. So I invite you to do this at your very next meal. Put down your fork between your bites. That's just put it down to enjoy. Halfway through your plate, ask yourself, like, where am I on that 1 to 10 hunger scale right now? And that's it. One meal, just one check-in. It's a great way to get started. And I would love to know which of the 3 hungers we cover today tends to show up most for you. Is it physical, emotional, or habitual? Drop it in the comments because it really helps me know what is most helpful for you. And honestly, naming it is also a good start for awareness. If you want a simple way to put this into practice, the Lean and Strong Jumpstart checklist has more on these key things that matter for fat loss after 50. And it's all laid out in one place. It's absolutely free. The link's in the description. Go grab it. And if this was helpful, follow along, subscribe here on YouTube or find the Midlife Mojo podcast wherever you like to listen. It helps us reach more women who need this, and I'd love to have you back. So see you next time.